Well, good afternoon and welcome. And of course, it being the second day of Christmas, or the third day of Christmas now, of course, I wanted to share with you that the Christmas decorations are now up at Camelot Castle. And good afternoon, Andrew Allsworth. Good afternoon to you, Geoffrey Granola and Dick Turnip. Very good afternoon to you. Now, Camelot Castle, over the last 2 years, has become known as a place where those that love freedom can gather, and nowhere is it more important for freedom fighters to gather this Christmas and New Year. And I wanted to just let you know that Camelot Castle is going to be the very, very last place for the light of freedom to be extinguished. Now, across the world, we are witnessing various different governments doing the most extraordinary things. And I had a discussion this morning with a good friend of ours, Lawrence Fox. And he, of course, is leading the Reform Party. And it's a very, very interesting situation. Very, very interesting situation. We discussed the fact that the actions that are being taken by some foreign governments at this stage are, in concept, no different at all to what the Nazis started to do in about 1933, 1934, when they started to round up the mentally disabled, the gypsies, and then, of course, the Jewish people, and segregate them into ghettos. Now, perhaps there are some people in the world that still think that was a great idea, but I think most people have come to the conclusion that was a terrible idea, and of course led to the Holocaust, the death of well over 6 million Jews. And what we can see now is that the actions being taken by the Austrian government and the German government are really going in that direction. What I was most upset to hear, and what I've been most upset to see, is that our politicians here in the UK have not immediately rounded on those governments and stated in the clearest and unequivocal terms that any Nazi-like actions or actions which segregate humanity based on their medical status is absolutely 100% inappropriate. Now, Dick Turnip, thank you very much indeed. Dick says, John, you've done an absolutely amazing job. I miss your live feeds. Well, we've been working in other realms, Dick. We've been working in other realms. We have been still communicating. What we found is that with the live feeds, it's very easy to get censored, and it's very boring to get censored. So what we do now is we have a Telegram channel. And when information goes out on the Telegram channel, people get that much faster. And, we need to move very much more quickly. Gus Org, hello. Nice to see you, Bill Coons. The plague is exposing and bringing out the worst hidden human nature, also bringing out the best in the resistors. I completely agree. I was very disappointed to hear a senior Conservative minister on the radio today refusing to decry the Nazi policies of Germany and of Austria, and of a few other countries now are discussing this. Perhaps I'm old-fashioned in the sense that I believe that Britain should be a free country, and that we should have freedom of speech and freedom to say whatever we think about anything. But increasingly, censorship has become part of our lives. I was very fortunate to have studied the book 1984 at school, and to have read the works of Solzhenitsyn. And understand the consequences of the crushing of the human spirit and what that eventually leads to in society. And the conclusion that one can draw from reading that literature is that it never ends well. And what a tragedy it is that our Prime Minister in England, here, hasn't got the educational background or the willpower to act on such gross violations of human rights, human freedom, and doesn't have the insight to predict where such negligence will leave. I think that it is absolutely appropriate to describe our current politicians and our current political leaders as completely negligent. Now, I have had a little bit of feedback from people saying that I shouldn't use the analogy of what happened with the Nazis and what happened in the Holocaust, because it's offensive to those people that went through the Holocaust and so on and so forth. Well, my own view is this. I think it's offensive to them not to use it. To any Jewish family, and our family suffered tremendously at the hands of the Nazis, actually in Belarusia. My wife's family, many of them were slaughtered at the hands of the Gestapo in Belarus. And I would just like to say this. Out of respect for those people that gave their lives, I say very, very clearly that the current German government are Nazis. They are behaving like Nazis. And it's not surprising, of course, because the Nazi does not die. When a Nazi drops the body, what happens, of course, is that Nazi gets reborn into a new body, and they very rarely reform. What actually happens to them is they tend to go undercover and they re-emerge given any opportunity. And when they re-emerge, they continue to work on the exact same purpose that they were working on in the previous incarnation. So, one of the things that we understand about life here at Camelot Castle is that the human spirit does not die, bodies die, but the spirit of any living entity continues on and gets reborn, and depending on where you wish to be reborn, or where you end up, perhaps if you didn't wish to end up there, some people are more in control of the reincarnation cycle than others. This is how things are. We're joined today by Amanda Jane Eliash. And she is, of course, one of the greatest freedom fighters. Hello, Amanda. How are you? Lovely to have you here on Camelot Castle TV. Now, Amanda and I discussed the other day how important it is to flag up the fact that the people who are suggesting, for instance, mandatory vaccination, are basically Nazis. And I would also call out another group of people, and that would be Nazi sympathizers. And those are the people that sympathize with that policy. They may not be proposing it themselves directly, but they are sympathetic to it. They are sympathetic to the idea of locking down the unvaccinated and locking down the unvaccinated and segregating society. So, I'm going to extend the description of anyone who is in any form of agreement whatsoever with some of the policy that is coming out of these European governments. You are basically either a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer. That's who you are. And you will have that blemish on your soul. Now, of course, in England, in 1935, there's actually a very good book which you can buy on Kindle called The Little Red Book. And it gives a list of all the members of the British aristocracy and in some cases members of the British royal family, who were sympathetic towards the Nazis. Many newspapers initially were very sympathetic towards Hitler. Time magazine, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but they presented Hitler as the man of the year. I believe the London Daily Mail wrote initially many laudatory articles about Hitler. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And today you find newspapers talking in sympathy and stating that those that are not vaccinated should be somehow labelled. Well, will the unvaccinated be asked to wear a yellow star? Is that what we will be asked to do? Is that really the direction that some of these newspaper editors and some of these journalists want to take society in? Well, I have a very accurate description of such people. They are Nazis. There is no question that they are Nazis. They are suppressive individuals. And chances are they've not just been Nazis in the last 5 minutes. Chances are they are reincarnated Nazis. And these are the people that were actually lining up the Jews and the Gypsies and the mentally impaired in Germany and getting them to undress in a shower and getting them then to walk into a gas chamber. Now, is that where this ends for the unvaccinated? Is it that the unvaccinated should be gassed? This is my question for them. Is it that we should be gassed or disposed with in some other way? Now, what is particularly interesting today is that the US courts have just ordered the release of the Pfizer data. And what's very interesting is Majid on Twitter. If you follow my Twitter account, you can see there that Majid, who is a great journalist, said in just the first 90 days of the vaccine's rollout, there were tens of thousands of reported adverse reactions, including over 1,200 deaths. It is insane to mandate something for which one side effect is death. Now, we've got a lot of comments here, and I'd like to share some of these comments because this show has never been just about me. All I really am is a portal for the truth. And one of the things I would like you to join is our Telegram channel, which allows you, it's called Camelot Castle TV Network Interactive. And we would like you to interact. We would like you to share your ideas. Now, Picknet says, Johnson is just a puppet. The intention is to do exactly the same here, and they'll push the propaganda, lies, and everything else towards this evil goal. Now, Jeffrey Granola says, it's all okay, Dick. All those who have perpetrated these crimes against humanity have been identified. Our previous sacrifices have ensured freedom is ours. We must continue to hold the line. I don't disagree, but we need to continue to communicate. Joe Crossland, shame on Germany and Austria. Shame, yes. But you know, never underestimate the degree to which an Austrian or a German delights in being a Nazi. You know, it is in their, a lot of the previous Nazis obviously were reborn back into Germany and just waiting for the opportunity to be activated. Dick Turnip says, you're correct in what you're saying, John. This is just the beginning, 1938. Absolutely right. Picknet says, yes, it is in direct breach of the Nuremberg Code. It is a war crime. Jeanette Swift says, I have been fighting all of this from early 2020. Something felt very wrong, Jeanette. You and I both, and you are always at home here at Camelot Castle, by the way. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if ever you feel yourself going completely and utterly crazy with some of these Nazis that surround you, do please come to Camelot for a few days, and we'll always try and do a good deal for you. And it's a good idea to have a bit of a change of environment and just be around sensible, sane people. You won't see any silly masks here. If somebody walks into Camelot wearing a mask, I'll ask them, do they think it's Halloween or something, because they're scaring the children, and I can't stand the level of cowardice that goes along with the mask wearers. They really are a bunch of cowards, and really just aiding and abetting. I would call the mask wearers aiders and abettors of the Nazi thrust. So, Marina Zapata says, hello, John. I was discussing this with Tracy today. We, the unvaxxed, will have to wear a visible badge. Some schools, there was a school actually in the southern part of England, I can't remember where, but they insisted that the children wore yellow badges if they were not able to wear a mask or this type of thing. Indigo Walter says, the entire thing is about DNA. It explains a lot. How some are evil and support evil while most do not, and how those still asleep cannot see. Thousands of years of splicing human DNA is ending. Well, that could be true. I also do think that the reincarnation of Nazi spirits into modern bodies is also a key factor. I walked around a local supermarket today without my mask on, with my son, who also didn't wear a mask. Good for you. Good for you. Red Dawn, hello. Yellow Stars, yes, that's right. Have already started in England in a private school. You're absolutely right. Other shoppers looked at us as though we were Jews in a Nazi part of Germany. Absolutely right. And I do think we have to call this out for what it is. It is Nazism. It is a fascism. It is the work of the devil. This is the work of evil demons, and it is very important to name these things. Christine Strauss says, good evening, lords, ladies, knights, heralds, freedom fighters, and truth seekers. Christine, good evening to you. Dick Turnip says, karma is a bitch. If it don't get you in this life, it will get you in the next. Ryan Meltron says, it's since 1945, but it's back. Absolutely right. Helen Gross says, praying for the awakening, and may the force be with you. There's a video that shows the Queen doing a Hitler salute, which was shocking. Duke's sister married a Nazi. I do believe that that is true. Thank you for getting the truth out. Well, that's what we're trying to do, and I thank you all for getting the truth out too. And as I say, please join our Telegram channel. Somebody perhaps could put the link up for it here so I can put it up on the screen. Now, Sally Brooks says, nobody wanted me to let me sit next to them on the bus because I wasn't wearing a mask. They put their bags so I couldn't sit down. Really? No, it's unbelievable. Nobody wanted to let me sit next to them on the bus because I wasn't wearing a mask. They put their bags so I couldn't sit down. Well, I have a word for people like that. These are the Nazis, you see. And I think it's very important that we name these people for who they are. Unless you label a person for their behavior patterns, it's almost impossible to confront what's going on. Same bloodline as Hitler. Well, Charlie Barton says, hello Charlie, how are you? Nice to see you again. The crazy thing about it all, everyone has taken this jab not knowing the ingredients, which I find is a bit like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. I don't disagree at all. Now, this is one of the Telegram links that you should join, and this is the other one. Thank you very much, Christine Rust. Thank you for putting that up. So just join those two groups, and then you can interact with us here at Camelot Castle. Darcy Goodall says, hello from London. Eric says, for some people, it's too hard to confront evil. Elizabeth says, Freemasons also involved. Well, I don't know about that, whether they are or whether they aren't. Amanda Jane Elliott said, under Operation Paperclip, they went to the USA. Yes, absolutely correct. A lot of them did. And for those of you that want to understand that, basically research Operation Paperclip. A lot of the technology and intelligence was taken by the CIA from Nazi Germany to America, and also a lot of the pharmaceutical technology. Now look at this. I've got my Christmassy Camelot Castle, here you go, coffee mug, which is rather nice. You can order these if you want to have your coffee in a Camelot Castle coffee cup. That's pretty tasty, actually. The coffee here is very, very good. I don't know if you've ever tried the best coffee in Cornwall. But Amanda Jane Eliash, the other thing to note is the reincarnation factor. Now, some of your friends, I'm absolutely sure, that are opposing you, I'm absolutely sure that they are reincarnated Nazis. No doubt about that at all. And, somebody has to reincarnate somewhere, so why not reincarnate into the middle of Chelsea or the home counties? Now, Ryan says we've been hearing this hold the line for over a year, and now it seems to be getting worse and worse. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Well, things are getting better. Interesting that the Nazis have reincarnated. They fled to Argentina after the war. Yes, a lot of them did. That's absolutely right. But obviously when those bodies died, what did they do? Well, they went back and they probably liked the German food or something, and so they felt like a bit of bratwurst again, or a bit of, schnitzel, or a little bit of, what is it like? They like bratwurst, or what's the other thing they have? Apple strudel. And so they decided to get onto that rather than, staying down in Argentina, which has got different food, obviously, for the spirits down there prefer that type of food. Now, people have become so brainwashed. I haven't watched TV. I focus on the positive side of life. I think all of us should go to Camelot Castle. Well, you don't all come at once. I couldn't take everybody at once, but it would be lovely to see you all. Dawn Rayner is here. Now, Dawn, of course, personal friend of Princess Diana. Somebody who has been extremely helpful in the spiritual realms. Dawn, how are you? Lovely to see you. Lots been going on. They are the major players. Derek Seminole says, I am a Scientologist. March 2020 is the first time I've been typical in 64 years. Now, I don't quite know what that means. I'm a Scientologist too, just in case some of you are joining us and didn't know. But good, that's good news. Every 100 years, depopulation. This is how they change our history, 100%. I got into trouble last week, so people have to be able to take the pressure. It's not easy. Amanda, you did get into a bit of trouble, but it was only the Daily Mail, and they love writing about you. You've got very little else to write about. And what I suggest you do is keep calling out the Nazis. Keep calling out the Nazis. That's what they are. If anybody is suggesting segregation of society based on medical status or any form of obligatory medical practice that is in full breach of the Nuremberg Code, that, in my book, makes them a full-blown Nazi. And you've got to tell people what they are, otherwise they never have a chance of waking up. Now, good. Rosamunda, I walkie-talkie around Waitrose and got filthy looks because I was not wearing a mask. Well, you know what? Call them what they are. These people are Nazis. Never worn a mask from day one. Good, nor have I. Good day, John. Wishing you and yours the very best. Yes, they're able to choose the right DNA bodies for Rage reincarnation cycle. Is more technically advanced than most of us realized. Well, there we go. This is all about changing human DNA and endgame. And Pictet says, I agree with everything you've said, John. It's important that we stay strong. However, I honestly believe we will win this in the end. Oh, I think we will win in the end. I'm a Scientologist. March 2020 is the first time I've been political in 64 years. Well, Derek, my position is this. Of course, the Church of Scientology cannot be political because it's a church. But an individual Scientologist, such as thee and me, has every reason to be political, because if we do not use what we know in relation to freedom and how it affects spirits, of course, the world is going to career in the wrong direction. So, well done for getting political. Don't stop being political. If you look at the origins of the world, of the word, it just simply means from the people. And so people that work in politics, there's a job that a politician should be doing, and that's caring for people. And it's a very, very important thing to engage. And certainly the founder of Scientology would expect that you do so. and very, very important that you do that. However, it is completely inappropriate for any Church of Scientology to engage politically, or for anybody that works for a Church of Scientology, because of course all churches of Scientology are non-political. But you as an individual should use what you know to guide the planet in the direction that you feel it should go. And I say that to every Catholic out there, to every Christian out there, to every Jew out there, to every Muslim out there, all of us that have a spiritual conscience and are aware that we are immortal spiritual beings. We have a job to guide. We have a guide. We need to guide the planet in the right direction. We all must have eyes to realize real lies. Absolutely right. Carol Snodgrass says, hello from Memphis, Tennessee. Hello. Now, the other thing I'm going to ask you to do, because I'll probably get banned again after this broadcast. Facebook have a habit. They don't like Nazis being called out. And they don't like anybody coming along and talking the truth on their, Facebook Live. It's a sort of it should be really called Facebook Lefty, really, or Facebook Woke. But, there we go. So this is probably the last time you'll hear from me for a month. But I would ask you to share this broadcast broadly now, really share it in your live feeds, because we are going to get onto some important issues. Well, we have actually touched already on some important issues. Romanian made a stand to the EU. They forced the EU to give the contract for the clot shot. They were shown the contract and had been blanked out. John, have you had a chance to see it? No, I haven't. Please share it in the group. Share it in the Telegram group. In the summer, my craft circle did not want me there because of being unjabbed. Well, I have a way to describe your craft circle, I'm afraid, Joe. They're a bunch of Nazis. They are a bunch of Nazis. That is what is called segregation. And if you didn't call them out as that, then really you have no business complaining about it, you see. These are a group of Nazis. The idea that your craft circle didn't want you there because you're unjabbed, that they are then practicing segregation. That is no different to sticking you in a ghetto and up the line suggesting that you get gassed because you are not vaccinated. So here we go. Think about this. Not one person alive is willing to hand over their freedom and sovereignty. So this war has already been won. We must continue to drown out the bullshit media criminals. Well, some people are giving a very good impression of being willing to hand over their sovereignty. That's all I would say. But I would say fundamentally you probably are right. Good. Do come and see us here. Lovely. Thank you for speaking on these things. Well, I think it's so important that we do. Because if we don't, history will repeat itself. Same people killed 30 million Russians, but nobody speaks about that. Well, I do. I speak about the Nazis killing Russians, and of course Russia got the brunt of the First and Second World War. So there we go. Good, somebody came here to Camelot, lovely. Amanda, thank you. Amanda says we are quite right, and we are quite right to keep on calling out the Nazis, wherever we find them. And if you find any in Chelsea, Amanda, or if you find any in the home counties, do point out that these people are being Nazis, because if you do not, then we will all pay the price. And the good thing about Amanda Jane Eliash is she is probably the most connected young lady in London, and extremely dynamic, extremely positive, extremely caring about her society. She comes from a bloodline of caring intellects, and she has been a supporter of President Trump. Now, I don't know if any of you saw the interview that Nigel Farage did with President Trump, but it's quite clear to me that he will be running in 2024, given any opportunity to do so, and it's going to be very exciting. So things are, that's a good question. Simon Richards, how many Scientologists have got vaxxed? Obviously it's a personal thing, and I don't know. I know some that have, and I completely disagree with anybody that's gotten themselves vaccinated. I think they're absolutely idiots to do so. But equally, they're free to do so. So, the mistake of a clever man, they say, is 1,000 times the mistake of an idiot. So there could be some very, very nice, charming, clever Scientologists who have decided to allow themselves to be temporarily brainwashed and to have got themselves vaccinated. Or they could have perhaps not been given accurate information and they decided to get themselves vaccinated. I don't think, certainly the church itself doesn't have a position, because it would never advise on medical matters or on anything to do with medicine. But obviously individual Scientologists, they're free to do whatever they want to do. What I can tell you is I haven't been vaccinated, and I wouldn't give it to my worst enemy's dog. So, and actually I wouldn't give it to any dog at all, because I rather like dogs. To be honest with you, I prefer dogs to humans. So I wouldn't give it to my worst enemy, is probably, let's not bring the poor dogs into it. Sue Chippendale, lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. Now, well, I was down in Saltash the other day. I was at Pentilly Castle, funnily enough. Rosamund, at Pentilly Castle. So there we go. Well, looking forward to New Year. You can see we've got the Christmas decorations up. We've got a lovely Christmas tree. In fact, let me just give you a little bit of a tour of the old Christmas tree. There it is. Look at that. We've got a fabulous Christmas tree this year. Absolutely glorious. And here we are. This is what we call the Infinity Salon in Camelot Castle. It's all decorated out for Christmas. There is the Mappin boar sitting on top of the fireplace. That is the crest of the Mappin family and has been so since 1775. I don't quite know why the boar is our crest. It probably means to say that we're a family of crashing boars, but that is the family crest. So I don't really know the origins of that. They are Nazis, though. They definitely are. Jeanette Swift says, call them out, wake them up. I think, how's this for an idea? Why don't we get some Nazi badges made up and give them out to people pushing the mask agenda? Why don't we, rather like people would go around giving out white feathers to people, which I didn't particularly like as a policy, but why not? Give people the opportunity, if people want to, be Nazis, surely, be one and be proud of it, so perhaps, you can offer them the opportunity to be proud of their new Nazi status, I think it's, Ina Urquhart, what a fantastic young lady from Scotland. Wish there were more people like you, John, so full of integrity and truth and not afraid to speak out about this Nazi agenda. Well, I'm not afraid to speak out about it. I'm not afraid to speak out about it. And I believe that at this stage, those people that are complying with the Nazi agenda are every bit as Nazi, or perhaps not quite as Nazi, as the Nazi instigators, but they're definitely Nazi appeasers and very, very, very important. So that's what's going on today. We are in the midst of the rise of the Fourth Reich, and that's what's going on in Europe. For those of you in countries where it hasn't begun yet, don't think it's not coming to you, because it is. To those of us in England that don't think that the German policy of segregation and mandatory vaccination is not on its way here if we don't do something about it, think again. It is coming here. And if you find yourself being strapped down by somebody in the army, as is occurring in Australia, where they are pulling Aboriginals out of their homes and holding them down forcefully and injecting the children with this vaccination or medical procedure, I don't even call it a vaccination, this medical procedure, then you will find that you may be surprised when an army officer knocks on the door here and says, please bring out the unvaccinated members of your family, and they have a team there to hold you down and force this poison into your body. There's no doubt that people are dying as a result of the vaccine. There's no doubt that heart disease. Christine Shaw says, only God can help us. We should all be on our knees. It doesn't come here. Well, it's not only God. God helps those that help themselves. You have to act. And, it's rather like God will provide for you financially. Well, if you don't do any work, you'll end up on the dole. Or worse, in countries that don't have. Roland Kuhn says it's time for arrests and Nuremberg trials again. Absolutely right, Roland. It was lovely to see you in Eastbourne. Lovely to see you. So, very, 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 very important. Very, very important. Camelot TV Network, John Mappin, after the broadcast has ended, is probably best to put into private to avoid any strikes. Lots of people do that. You could think about uploading to alternatives. I think you're probably right. I'm afraid I have probably broken every single Facebook rule in the book. But there we go. If we don't communicate, what are we supposed to do? We are being assailed by Nazis. Our Prime Minister is behaving by failing to speak out against segregation of people and mandatory medical procedures in England. I'm sorry, that is a Nazi sympathizer. That's what we're dealing with. That is what we are dealing with. So hello everybody, it's appeasement. Hannah Cairns, absolutely right, Hannah. This is appeasement, appeasement, appeasement. And it's an appeasement of the most evil forces, devil-bound, hell-fearing, hell-worshipping, demon-supporting. We are witnessing the work of the demons of Satan, the minions of Satan, and it is the work of the Nazis. And do not think that just because these Nazis dropped their bodies in 1945 or whenever they died down in Argentina, do not think that these Nazis have not now reincarnated and are not back and working and have become cleverer. All of these Nazis have now understood social media. They've taken control of social media companies. They've taken control of major corporations. They've taken control of pharmaceutical corporations. These are all reincarnated Nazis. You have to realize, if a person does reincarnate, this body, yes, sure, you can come here and you can, I'm not asking for any serial killers, by the way, at this point, but this body can be killed. But you can't kill me. And, I wasn't a Nazi in 1945. I've never been a Nazi. I'm not about to become one. But what of the people that were Nazis? Where are they? Think about this. Where were they reborn? Belgravia, Birmingham, Beverly Hills, or Bangladesh? And there they are. Or maybe they just got reborn back into Hamburg or Berlin, because they wanted the old bratwurst. They fancied a bit of bratwurst. They weren't getting any decent sauerkraut down in Argentina, and they had a hungering for it, and they wanted to be around like-minded souls, and so they decided, well, let's reincarnate back into the home of the Nazis, Germany. Let's go back there. Is that a possibility? Is that a possibility? Might that explain what we are witnessing? The re-rise of the Nazis? Very, very important to understand such things. Very, very important to understand the immortality, and if we are all immortal, that means the good guys are immortal, and it means the bad guys are immortal. And in the same way as you will live again, they also live again. And in the same way as you have a benign purpose, they have evil purposes. And it's so important to understand the dynamics of life. Very, very important to see. In a way, it's good for Argentina because, the Nazis probably... now, here we go. Julie Jew says, my father, who fought against the Nazis for our freedom, will be turning in his grave right now. Well, except for the fact that your dear father, his body went into a grave, he himself is still alive and kicking. So maybe he is here now, and maybe he still is fighting the Nazi impulse or the Nazi purpose. So here we go. Laurie Miller says the courts in the USA have been suspending Biden's mandatory vaccine orders and hopefully will be completely abolished. Gives me hope. Biden is definitely an evil Nazi dictator. Laurie, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Marina Zapata says the connection is going, John. Of course it is. Of course, there's so many people online now watching the broadcast on all the platforms that they're cutting me out. Interruptions in the broadcast. There we go, it's cutting out. The Nazis are all over this broadcast now. I'd better go. I'll probably have a Nazi officer turning up at the door of Camelot with his needles or something. So I'd better say goodnight, but I wish you all a happy Christmas. We're going to do a few more broadcasts, and if ever you want to be around sensible, sane people, Camelot Castle is the place to come. Lovely to see you all, and let us act. Let us label correctly those beings that seek to suppress life, and let us understand and be very, very clear. Anybody who segregates people on the basis of medical status is a Nazi, and anybody that doesn't stand up against it is basically complicit with the Nazi regime. That is what we are now looking at. It is as clear as day. Please share this broadcast where you can, and we will speak very, very soon.